Hey, we're here.
Hey.
Was it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Yep, hey,
we're
right on schedule.
We told you we would, and we delivered.
We're so good at this. So since the last time we spoke, some bad news here in Minnesota. We had one miracle in Minneapolis Miracle, and then one Philly flop.
Yeah, Philly flop with
Philly
a
flop.
PH.
Yeah.
Flop. PHLOP.
We don't get into sports a lot on our podcast, but that one hurt.
Yeah.
Eh.
You mean the beer cans getting thrown at us, or the?
Right.
Oh.
Hey, aren't you kind of glad that I didn't find plane tickets for that?
So really quick, we we toyed around with the idea of maybe going to Philly to watch the game, and then we're like, man, I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of glad we didn't go.
Yeah. If they would have won, though, we would have felt bad.
Yeah.
Well.
Been weird.
Anyway, Super Bowl's here in a couple weeks. Hey, that's something we can talk about next time, huh?
Yeah.
Super Bowl
commercials.
and
Yeah.
all the advertising we're hearing about down in the cities.
And we'll have a special guest, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one then. Now I think about it, I'm excited.
Tune into that one for sure. You can shut off this one right now, but tune into that. Right.
I feel like we just did that. Remember last year we did a review, or was it the year before? No, we won't be doing this.
I remember doing the.
What am I talking? I don't know.
That was a few weeks after the Super Bowl, I think maybe.
Was it?
I don't know.
Yeah. Next year or this time, we'll be more. Yeah, maybe I'll even do like some my own thoughts on my phone, like as I'm watching.
Oh, people will get excited for that.
Yeah, and then we can interject stuff in there.
Instagram story.
Ooh, now we're talking turkey.
Should do a live broadcast from the Super Bowl.
I love it.
Well, not from the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but
I know what you mean.
From watching the Super Bowl.
Right, from the same state.
Yeah. So.
Well, our topic of conversation today is education.
I like being educated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep.
Education. Yeah. I feel like we do a really good job of that here at Creative Arcade.
We don't edit, so.
Yeah, we're editing.
We don't live stream.
Should I try that again?
No, it's good. Just keep rolling it. So you're getting educated.
Oh, boy. One of the things I think we do really well here at Creative Arcade is we educate our clients on certain aspects of the things that we do, like including process and the things that we suggest that they maybe do and why they should do it. I think with a service industry like this that we provide, it's sometimes tough to wrap your head around why do things cost what they do and why does it take so long to do certain things. And I think one of the things we've been talking about a lot lately is just that overall presence of what you're putting out there, whether that's your website or any of the other content, but mostly around the website. And I think we've really been talking to our clients a lot about how to make the website the hub of everything you do.
Yeah, definitely.
And how
at least nowadays,
and how everything should drive content or traffic to your website and kind of filter it through there if possible. So.
Yeah, no, that's true because and ultimately, I think a lot of people still maybe think of their website as kind of more of a brochure. I know the way we're starting to come around is it's more or less like you said, does a lot of the heavy lifting. Really should be a lead generator for them. That should be kind of because that's where we're just kind of naturally going to look stuff. You already do it. You look it up through Google or whatever. Even if you've seen it in print or maybe if you've seen it on a billboard. Where are you going to wind up eventually getting more information on your website or through digital channels like that? So that's why we kind of use that as your kind of baseline. This is where you ultimately kind of build upon. Maybe the next layer is kind of more of those other digital strategies and being an inbound marketing agency that we are. We use HubSpot, obviously social media, all those different things that maybe you're already aware of. But we use HubSpot to kind of help manage that, to set up those that specific lead generation piece through the website, and then from there all the other marketing and advertising that we maybe do is layered on top of all that, and it really creates kind of this really fully integrated piece, right, in telling the story of your brand. So it's that's definitely the way we like to tell people to go.
And I think one of the things too that you could possibly lose sight of is if you are starting with the website and then working your way to some of these other channels is to take as much time and consideration to each one of those things, because that's where you might capture somebody first and bring them into your website. So why not spend the time and effort of getting those dialed in and look pretty as well?
Yeah, and I think at times it's hard, and some of this might sound like obvious, but I think at times we find where as we're educating people, we also see, maybe a desire to do something, but then maybe there's a lot of other barriers that come up and allows them not to necessarily totally invest or wade into as far as they need to go to really get the results they're looking for. And that can be anything. Is how much they value that actually. A website. Everyone knows they need to have one. If you don't have one, if you don't have one by now as a business, that's sorry.
Unless you just started out.
Yeah.
Right, but you know what I mean. Like obviously, we're way past the realm of I need a website. You should have one. It's one of the first things you do. But I think a lot of times when they look at how can we make it better, it's not always considering the investment, in time and energy and effort and dollars sometimes to really do it correctly, where it can really start to work for you. And that can be frustrating.
Yeah.
Not only for us because we can see the power of that, but then even for them, it can create some kind of I don't know what the word is for it, but it can create maybe a project can become maybe worse than it really needs to be. As far as how far to take it or whatever. But anyway, so.
Well, I think some of the conversation that we all had earlier was this happens in every industry.
Yep.
Everything you talk about, whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, or selling cars, that you have to educate people on what they're spending their money on and why it's better to maybe do something here or maybe not over there. And I think the ones that do the better educating are the ones that are more successful.
Yeah.
And probably have better relationships, that you're not spending money and wondering why later. Right. You understand the value of it and why you're doing it.
Yeah. I think too, it's easy to be, and sometimes again, there can be a variety of reasons why maybe they don't get totally vested in something like that, but I think a lot of times we run into maybe it's dollars and cents, and looking at strictly as a dollar and cents thing versus what this actually will provide in value back. And most times it's going to be, many times over probably back through whatever that is, in a return, if you will, on your investment. Sometimes it's hard to really get that to maybe be taken seriously. Sometimes.
And it's particularly the case with the type of work that we do because it's something that not everybody understands. The technology behind it, what's involved in building a good website and integrating all of that together as one cohesive solution.
Right.
One thing I always get a kick out of is if we show some of the process to a client, like Jan, if you show some of the code that it takes to do certain things on a website, you just see people's faces glaze over a little bit, or if we show an Illustrator page of designing a logo in our sketchbooks and show what we actually went through to get to this little square logo that we created for you, I think it's really eye-opening for clients, and they start to understand the amount of time and effort that it takes to do something successfully.
Something worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And ultimately too, when I talk about investment, especially on the financial side, I think it's easy to just say, I'm investing in Creative Arcade, or I'm investing in insert firm here, but really you're investing in your own business.
Yeah.
What you're getting provided back to is ultimately what you're investing.
Yeah, we're just helping you get there.
You get there, So sometimes I think it's hard to always think about that, about this is actually, it's, maybe it's at the outer edge of my budget, but this is what the value of that is back to me as a business, and there's a reason why I'm working with who I am, or we're doing it a certain way, or this specific feature that there's a reason for it, right? So
looking at budget too, a lot of places have no idea what to budget for that we've talked to. So I think that's part of it too, is to say, this is what it's going to cost to do all these things that you need or want. Maybe we work on this later, when you have the budget for it, or maybe we do it in stages. We can do X, Y, and Z first, and then later we'll come back and tackle some of the other stuff you wanted to do. But I think it's just like anything. We're looking at a new phone system for the office here, and what? It costs that much money for a phone line? And all the features and things. So educated us, just looking into it. So.
But there too, then we also boil down to what are our specific needs.
Yep.
you know, and then it's like, well, is this solution that's got 10 other things on it really needed, or is it just nice to have? I mean, obviously there's that whole thing, which everybody goes through that something. It's the same thing even when you're making a decision about buying a toaster, you know, do I need it to just simply have a slot or 2 slots at the most and a setting for 2 minutes, or does it need to start my car? You know, obviously then there's just different ranges for that.
Speaking of toasters, we weren't really planning on talking about this, but I want to thank Alec from across the hall for teaching me how to use a toaster.
Yep.
Maybe not the toaster,
Do I know
but
this story?
You don't know this story?
You weren't in the office.
Remember, I've been complaining for months about how my toast is always burnt?
Yeah.
Well, I had the dial turned the wrong way.
He was misinterpreting how a dial works.
I was misinterpreting not how a dial works, but the graphics on the dial. Yes. One looked like it was well done toast to me, and one looked like it was not done at all.
See, now I've never had a problem with that, only because I'm very impatient with toast. That I'll put it in and I have it on a setting, and then I'm always popping it out to check it.
Yeah.
Even if I set it to the right setting, I'm just impatient that way.
Well, I'm picky with toast. I like it to barely be toasted. No color to it. Just enough to destroy your palate. You know, just sandpaper up there.
Yeah.
Evidently, their label was designed wrong.
Yeah. So when we do the synopsis of this, make sure you put toaster and all those things, because we'll get a lot of views. I'm sure.
Right.
Do you think Alec is even listening?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm glad I did the shout out.
Hi, Alec. Yeah, no, and so back what we were just talking about. So, you know, we're obviously using the website or some of those things. You know, other thing too, and I know we're going to do a talk this summer through the chamber about. We decided to talk about the power of design, which we're still putting together what that is, but I think
we got months left.
I know. But really, though, part of what I think we're ultimately thinking when we propose that topic, it kind of ties into this. You know, there too, just really appreciating design for what it is and the power it really has. I mean, it's easy to take it for granted because design. You know, we're bombarded constantly with marketing messages. You know, and behind a marketing message, there is a lot of the different, when it comes to talk about graphic design, you know, and that's why we kind of run all these different mediums, obviously, is that we're applying all those more visual aspects to that to, you know, communicate a message, right? So colors and fonts and logos that we create and the meaning behind those things and representing people. But a lot of times I think you get so bombarded, it's easy to take it all for granted. And it's easy to also not value it as much sometimes, you know. You know, sometimes too, like online, I know there's these weird companies that you can get a logo for $50. You know, so then when we come in with our prices and the amount of time it takes to really take the right amount of care and research and all the different parts of the process to get to something like that, I think it's eye-opening for people when you tell them how much it's going to cost, and they're just like, why?
Yeah.
You know. And then a lot of times, sometimes because we do a lot of logo work, so sometimes they're on board, and others are just like not paying for it because they don't value, they don't really, or maybe they just don't understand the value.
Yeah,
and I think we a lot of times, like you said, we take pride in educating our clients, but even then, sometimes it just comes down to dollars and cents, and nothing you can do about that. You know, but you know, the power of that first impression, you know, and being that visual cue, and obviously I'm using a logo as an example here, but it could be like many different aspects of marketing, so important into what they're doing, you know. One
of the other things we talked about was an e-commerce site. If you look at an e-commerce site, you're going to spend money with somebody on a specific product. If you go to that site, at least this is we all agreed on this, and I feel like it's probably the general consensus. If you go to a site that looks like it was designed in the 90s, you know, has a lot of those attributes, I feel like you're less inclined to buy something from them, because if they're not taking the time to update their site and photos and products and things like that, can you really trust them to deliver on a nice product and customer service? And I know security was an issue you were talking about.
Or protect your information. If I go to a site that looks like it hasn't been updated in 10 years, I'm going to be concerned if they're going to protect my information.
Right.
It's always in the back of my mind. And I have chosen e-commerce sites based on that first impression.
Right, and then that's all it really is that first impression, where then you might go look for another site or buy it off of Amazon or something like that. And maybe even spend a little bit more because you trust them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, you know, if one of us goes to a job interview, you know, and the reason why you don't, I know, I'm not leaving. No, but I mean, you know, there's a reason why you obviously don't show up in flip-flops and shorts. I don't care for what job it is, you know, unless it's a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's maybe, you know, that's probably the only time.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the same thing, you know, obviously that first impression, you could be great and whatever, but just that whole, like, you show up and it's like, well, right away you're like, I don't know if this is the right person for the job here, because same kind of thing, you know, if you look like you're not dressing for the part, then, you know, with your website or whatever, yeah, you're going to lose faith right before, you know.
We should do a blog post. Is your website dressing for the part?
That's a good point.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll have to write a note about that. Yeah.
I'm just an idea guy. Jan, you want to write that one?
Sure.
All right.
We'll get right on that.
Yeah. But so, yeah, it's the same thing. But unfortunately, I think sometimes and again, that's one aspect, you know, the power design is much more than that too. Obviously, we have, being that we're basically influencing communication, you know, we obviously have the power to influence behaviors in other ways too, you know, that from making someone cry to make them laugh to make them angry to, you know, we have the power to deliver those messages, you know. So obviously there's a whole nother aspect to that kind of thing, but in the realm of client interaction, sometimes I think it's easy to kind of forget that the investment into that is really investment in yourself, you know. And so
well, going along the lines of the education portion that we try to provide our clients, I think HubSpot is probably one of the bigger ones right now, because not everybody understands what HubSpot does or what inbound marketing is. So that's been a nice challenge to do and come up with a few presentations to show clients how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So education, very, very important. I mean, and I think, and to your point, just even there, I mean, with so much things changing all the time, it is a constant education of our clients, because there's always the next thing that they have to be prepared for, you know. And obviously, we have to be the ones that kind of be prepared to interpret and explain that to them, so they understand it, to know if it's something that they are willing to invest in. So I mean, so they're there too. It's just kind of this very circular kind of dance that we're dancing sometimes with that.
Well, it's important to educate ourselves too.
Right. And so that's why, you know, everything comes out, whether we like it or not. You know, like, remember, think about Snapchat. We're obviously not millennials, you know, and I use it periodically, but you know, you still need to kind of know how it basically works, kind of the thought process behind it, obviously how it impacts millennials and the Z generation, and you know, how they use that, and to at least have an idea of what that is, so that you can definitely, you know. And then, you know, obviously for us, we take it another step farther. How do you market with it, or potentially market with it, because someone might have that question, and we obviously got to know that answer.
Yeah, we have to be able to answer that. If they're going to have a comfort level with what we can do, we have to.
Right. Because if we have the question, you know, they have the question. You know, how is this going to help my business? You know, and so there's always that ongoing knowledge that we gotta kind of grasp on and be able to turn on and educate with, you know, to know if it's worth to invest in or not. So, yeah. I don't know if we solve any problems there or things there, but it's just something that lately we've been talking more and more about as we educate our clients on some of these things. So
stay in school, kids.
Yeah.
Stay in school.
Learning is good.
Yeah, learning is good. But anyway, want anything else on that, or I mean, we can,
our little teaser for next week.
Next time.
Yeah. Or next time. Next week.
Super Bowl. Oh no, that's not what you meant.
No.
What's his name?
Steven. So we have a new graphic designer starting on February 1st. His name is Steven. And we're going to have him on one of the shows, probably the next one if he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
And he'll let him introduce himself and tell us all about him.
Yeah, we're excited to have him. You know, it's probably long overdue. We just keep getting more and more busy with things, and you know, as much as we feel like we're Supermen sometimes, we have to. It's time.
Yeah,
we get some help. But no, what's cool about Steven, you know, he definitely has a very I don't know what the word is. He's a great aesthetic to his work. I think some of it's maybe going to push some other boundaries that maybe we don't. I shouldn't say we don't do, but I mean he's just got a little bit different style.
Different point of view.
Different point of view, which is good. It helps us be a little more well-rounded. But what's really cool is that he's got a lot of photo and video skills that it's just one of those pluses. We weren't hiring for that per se, but it definitely is interesting about. And he's willing to obviously help us with some of that stuff, or use those talents towards client work, creative arcade work, etc. So that's kind of fun as we kind of build our skill set. So
that was a teaser.
Yeah, I guess we don't need to have him on anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steven. No, just kidding.
Cool.
Yeah, no, we'll talk more about him. Maybe show some of his work, even potentially, maybe in the video portion of that next time. But so. Well, cool. Well, that's all I got for this week.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Cool. Well, until next time, have a good podcast. Take it easy.